Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's football show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Rough, Tam McManus and Charlie Adam here with me today. Lots to talk about on the programme. You can follow us on our Facebook. Don't forget to share the stream. And if you're on our YouTube, great to have you on board. You can join the football family by hitting that subscribe button and you'll get all the latest notifications on our unique video content. And if you go onto our website, plzsoccer.com, you'll get all the latest breaking news, north and south of the border and across European and world football as well. And we're live on Twitter. So I think I've covered all bases on it. Great news. Great to have Charlie and Tam here as well, Roughie. And of course, Roughie, you would have been privy to it on Twitter, but Tam is apparently getting back to his absolute best at the five-a-side. So it's looking as if we could have a cracking match coming up. Just a little bit worried though, Roughie, that if we touch Tam, he'll go down trying to get a penalty at five-a-sides. That's all I'm saying to you, Roughie.
Yeah, well, that's the markings of the player. You know, that's you expect that for some people. You know, but some people need to move on. You know, and but he's obviously just carrying on where he left off. So no, come on, I'll come and be the referee in that game.
Yeah,
I'll be the.
Charlie, tell him what you said before
it.
Richie Adams. Ask him if he would take it. Charlie, go.
Absolutely. Last minute, Wembley goes round the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper fouls him. He can stand up in an empty net, or does he go down, right down? Is it a penalty? 1-0. See you later, up the road.
Oh, you've been complaining about him diving. No.
He goes round the goalkeeper and he's touched and he's got an open goal and the ball's at his feet.
Yeah, it's never if it ball's at his feet.
All right,
if
okay.
It's not at his feet, if the ball's not at his feet, I'm done, straight down.
But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, what you do is you bring him into the dressing room and you say, right here, let me have a word with you. Don't do that again.
Yeah, but we're through. Absolutely, you're right. Of course, Roughie, the good thing is if Tam's getting his sharpness back, I think I could be up against it. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, Roughie. Will you stay long enough for my first goal?
Yeah, look, I've seen you in action in this five-a-side's your area. This is your area, don't you? You don't have to go left or right. You're in your zone, whatever half of the party you're in. So you'll be fine.
I'll be looking forward to this one. Anyway, great to have Tam with us. And of course, he's got his Diego Maradona top on as well. Washes well, looks fantastic. He's looking in great form. And Charlie, you've got a Dundee side that are really in the mix, by the way. I mean, it's getting close, isn't it? Now we're down to the wire.
It is. And, the disappointment of last night, I think, when you think that you've got an opportunity to go away from home and beat one of your closest rivals just on the night. We never probably created enough to win the game. So it is one, but we're in the mix still. Plenty of games to go, no many games to go, sorry. And, we're playing for Nest next Tuesday. So that's another big one coming up. And let's say we need to try and get into second place because, it gives us 2 less games.
Yep. Okay. Fingers crossed that we can get your opinion on things on our Facebook and our YouTube and Twitter as well. But let's cut to the first topic. It's a hard one because the news has come out that UEFA have given Andre Kudela a 10-game ban for the racist abuse towards Glenn Kamara in the match between Slavia Prague and Rangers at Ibrox. Basically, Glenn Kamara's lawyer has come out and said Kudela was found guilty by UEFA of racist abuse towards Glenn Kamara, banned for 10 games. This is the barest minimum penalty, and it makes a mockery of UEFA's claims on taking racism seriously. We had appealed a 5-match ban for Glenn Kamara, and that's now been reduced to 3, and we expect further statements coming from Glenn Kamara's lawyer on this. But if I can put it in perspective, Roughie, it's a 10-game ban for Andre Kudela. Now, when you bear in mind that Kieran Trippier, when he was at Atletico Madrid, when he was moving to Atletico Madrid, he was banned for 12 games and suspended because basically told a close friend he was moving to Spain, which breached betting guidelines. So I think we've got a real difference in the penalties here, and it tells you more about UEFA than it does about how serious they are about treating racism.
Yeah, first of all, I've always said that the two incidents are different. You know, they should be dealt with in their own way. I personally don't think it's sent out the right message for both the fines. I don't. If 10 games is the minimum, I'd like to know what the maximum is. It should have been the maximum. You know, the maximum sends it out to everybody. This is what you're going to get. So I don't get the 10 being the minimum. As far as Kamara's concerned, I don't think 3 games sends the right message out for assaulting somebody in the tunnel. So in both instances, I think it should have been stronger punishment. I'm not saying Kamara should have been 10 or anything like that, maybe 6 or something. But certainly the other guy had to be the maximum. And if somebody could tell me what that maximum is in the rules, he should have got it.
Well, I'm surprised by your statement on that, Roughie, because for me, Glenn Kamara should have been given the UEFA Fair Play Award, never mind 3 games of a ban, by the way, because, you know, there is no doubt there was enough evidence there to give him a 10-match ban, Tam. And, you know, Glenn Kamara and many others, you know, could be forgiven for losing the head about somebody in a game being guilty of racist abuse towards them.
No, it's scandalous, Peter. I don't blame Glenn Kamara whatsoever. I don't think he should get any ban. You know, it's been proven that what he's done has been said. 10-game ban. I think it should have been a year minimum. You know, I think a 10-game ban is an absolute joke. It doesn't send any message out whatsoever. You know, it's a great opportunity for UEFA to really send out a strong signal that they are, you know, zero tolerance on racism throughout Europe, and they didn't do it. 10 games is a joke, and you know, I think that, you know, that guy should have been banned for a year. I think it was disgusting, disgraceful what he said. You know, he covered his mouth. You could tell with the reaction. He's been done, and it should have been a year ban minimum for me. So 10 games is a joke, and UEFA, I just think they're a total joke. As you said, the guy get Trippier for giving his mates a tip to sit a couple of quid on for going to Atletico Madrid, gets banned for 12 games, and somebody calls somebody a racist comment, and he gets 10. Don't understand it.
Yeah, it's a hard one to take for Glenn Kamara, I have to tell you. And now, Charlie, I think the one thing that we always were mentioning on this programme is once the evidence was all in there, then you could start to look and say, right, what's the message they're going to send out here? So there's clearly enough to give them the 10-game ban. And I think a lot of players, a lot of black players will look at this and think, you know, this is just tokenism. It really is.
Not just the black players, Peter. I think the white players. I'm stunned with it. We back this racism campaign every season. We hold the cards up. We wear the t-shirts. You may as well just go and rip that up now and forget about it. It's a shambolic decision. The lad, if he has been proven found guilty for what he said, and they should ban him for a year with minimum a year. It's disgusting. And as a white player who's never been through this, I think it's time that we stand up and we have to make a difference, because it's not acceptable in the game. And you know, it's I feel for Glenn Kamara. I feel for, you know, every black player out there, that when there is an opportunity like this and it's obvious what was done, found guilty, and to get a 10-game ban, it just shows that UEFA are weak, and you know, we'll have to see what else comes from it.
Another aspect of this, which I thought was a very good point that was made today, Roughie, was Clarence Seedorf, who mentioned the fact that players should be immediately sanctioned if they cover their mouth while talking to an opponent or the referee. This was something, I mean, he thinks, you know, if you're talking to the opponent or the referee, it's a game of football. This is something that started to rear its head in football over the last decade, where players would go like this when they were talking to someone else. I really couldn't care. I don't care what somebody says to somebody, you know, when they're walking off the park. Do we really care that they're talking about they're not happy with somebody, you know, an incident in the game or anything like that? Why is the need to cover your mouth? Just get on with it and play the game, you know, instead of that nonsense. That whole thing started off and gave everybody the platform to think, well, not only can we cover our mouth, we can actually start shouting racist abuse at people and try and get away with it as well. I think all the players are guilty of just complete and utter stupidity when it comes to all of that. Play the game, who cares what you're saying to your manager or whatever? If your manager's at the trackside shouting, by the way, close him down, go and try and stop him getting into our box. He can say it, we can all lip read it. You still have to do it. That's what the game of football's about. But I like what Clarence Seedorf's saying. Put your hand over your mouth to try and protect and stop anybody from seeing what you're saying. Get a yellow card, get a ban. Why do you need to do that?
Yeah, it's obviously something that's coming into the game, and it's obviously something that the clubs themselves have advised the players with the amount of media coverage there is now, the amount of TV cameras are there, the amount of sound systems there, and it seems to be that it's the way that they've all been told to do it. Don't get caught on camera saying something about somebody, and this is what you're going to do. And you're right. It just looks stupid. That you would do this. I mean, even guys sitting on the bench are doing it, and they're not even playing. So it must be something that's come out there from the top to tell them to do it, because you can see most of them are doing it now, and it just looks a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I think the general feeling is we're right behind Glenn Kamara. How his lawyer responds over the next hour or so with a longer statement, only time will tell. We'll get to hear about it. But I think the general feeling across Scotland is one of amazement that it's just only 10 games. Over and above that, Rangers have been in dialogue with the social media sites about the racist abuse that not only Glenn Kamara but a number of players have suffered as well. They've met with Instagram and Facebook, and they released a statement regarding their meeting. And they said, Rangers can confirm we met with Instagram and Facebook today. This was the first step in constructive dialogue between our club and social media platforms. As a club, we take a zero-tolerance approach to all forms of racism and discrimination. We believe faceless online perpetrators should be held accountable. It is vital that our players and staff are protected online. We outlined our strong belief that social media companies should make it mandatory to provide identification before being able to open an account. We outline young people should be educated and empowered to ensure future generations understand the gravity and impact of their online actions. This is a responsibility of social media platforms. As a club, we're proud of the success of our groundbreaking Everyone Anyone campaign, which sends a clear message of inclusion, togetherness and a zero tolerance to all forms of discrimination on and off the pitch. So I would suggest to you, Tam, that not only Rangers, I think every club has to try and make a stance on this. Even every club within all sports, individuals as well, basically to try and force them to come up with some kind of registration plan which makes you accountable for the comments you make on social media.
Absolutely, Peter. It's been a long time coming. We've seen it in this show for, I think, a couple of years now. It's terrible, the abuse that people are taking on online and social media from people who can open up an account within 2 minutes. And you don't have to put your name, your address, your passport, nothing. You just have to open it up, put a fake name down, a fake picture, and you can go and you can see whatever you like to people. It's a disgrace, and hopefully now this is a start from Rangers. Hopefully other clubs in Scotland and in Europe take note of this, and we can go and try and weed these people out, because until that happens, we're just going to be going round in circles. We're going to be condemning it on this show and every other show, every other platform, saying it's not good enough, but it's just going to keep happening. So until people have to put down their name and address and their either passport or driver's license, whatever, and they can be verified, that's who they are, then they can open an account. Until that happens, Peter, we're just going to go round in circles with the same stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the first thing. Of course, it's going to be more difficult to try and police it on YouTube, because in some of the chat rooms that go on, I mean, I have shut our chat room down on occasion, but now I think it's better to try and ignore and ask the sensible people who watch us on YouTube to ignore some of the bile that people who are using accounts where they don't have to actually show their face or indeed get any kind of registration attributed to that individual person. But eventually they will get round to it, Charlie. That's an absolute stonewall certainty.
Yeah, no, Rangers have obviously, the players have had a week of silence, really, and no, listen, the dialogue started, and at least we're in a process, hopefully now, that can people can start getting put faces to what accounts are, and let's say IDs and things like that, and we can move forward hopefully with that. But like you say, it's you think people got better things to do than sit and abuse people on the internet while we're trying to do a show and hopefully give people a good time. Well, it's tough being stuck indoors, and you get idiots out there that just want to sit on their computers and abuse people. It's a sad world out there, and hopefully, like I say, things like that can change quite soon and get rid of these idiots.
Yeah, absolutely. In our country as well. Not only Rangers, but I think a lot of other clubs need to join in and try and take a forceful approach to it, because, of course, our country, and especially in a certain part of it, the west of Scotland, has a particular problem. Not only racism, but I think the bigger problem in this country, in the west of Scotland, is sectarianism. There'll be a few people, if they were to register their accounts, would be facing the wrath of the law as well. So we'll see how it all gathers pace and whether we can stamp it out. And, of course, educate people to understand other people, their differences, whether it's religion, whether they're black or white. We have to educate people to accept everybody's differences without abusing them in any shape or form. So that's going to be a long way in the future. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's going to be something we have to stick by again and again. Another thing that came out of UEFA, Tam, was Kemar Roofe. He picked up a 4-game ban for the challenge on the Slavia Prague goalkeeper. I don't think we can argue with that one. I think even Kemar Roofe is aware of how bad that was. I think he left him with 10 stitches.
Yeah, listen, it's a bad tackle, Peter. I don't think anybody can defend that. I don't think he's meant to get in and do the goalkeeper, but he's reckless, he's high, and the goalkeeper gets a real sore one. He could have lost an eye in that situation. So I don't think anybody at Rangers or Kemar Roofe will argue that ban. 4 games, he's got to just accept it. It was a very poor tackle and just get on with it. But the Kamara incident, as we spoke about, is an absolute joke. But I don't think Rangers can have any complaints with that.
Yeah, they were also fined £7,800 just over for failing to control their players on the pitch. So it was one of those contentious games, and it certainly came out with a few talking points. Inverness, as Nikolai Todorov claims, he was racially abused by a Wraith Rovers player. I can't believe it. Most of the time, we spend quite a lot of it discussing some of the unsavoury aspects of football. Todorov was hit with an SFA charge for breaching the rules of excessive misconduct, and he alleged his reaction was due to racist abuse. So that's another investigation which is going into Ian Davison, the Wraith player, who is alleged to have made discriminatory remarks. April 15th for that one. So again, listen, it's not only people in society, it's a society problem, but I think players, sportsmen, sportswomen, lots of people will obviously need to try and not only be ambassadors, but try and show the way to educate people who idolise them as well, that the correct way is not to abuse people for their race, creed or colour. It's as simple as that. Interesting times ahead. Social media needs to get a grip of itself. And of course, you only have to look at the last 24 hours. I'm not really going to get drawn on this, but you only have to look, Roughie, at the last 24 hours about the moron who basically filmed Neil Lennon. And again, it just involved a free-for-all on Neil Lennon on what his situation is, or, whether he goes out for a drink. And I would say to you, let anyone who hasn't had a drink and who hasn't been slightly the worse for wear throw the first stone, Roughie, because if I think of the amount of times that you and I have gone a night out, and you might have had to hold me up, and I had to hold Tam up, and thankfully nobody filmed us. But Neil Lennon gets some amount of abuse, and if only people really knew what he was like, a nicer lad you'd never meet.
Yeah, I'm fed up saying it on the show that football players are the same as everybody else. They're human beings who live a separate life away from the football. Whatever that might be, you might agree with it, you might not agree with it, but they've got a life to lead. And they should be judged on the football park and let them deal with a private life themselves. And if they get into any trouble, then the people will deal with it. But it's ridiculous that people think that they can delve into people's private life and they think it's acceptable, and it isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And the abuse that came his way as well leaves a lot to be desired. But that's the current state of play in society at the moment. We are poisoned with it. It's the only way I can sum it up. Anyway, the good news is, Tam, our staff party, we're holding it in a cupboard with no Wi-Fi and no light.
I'm going to say that. No phones. No phones, Peter.
It's just all of us. It's just all of us bumping into each other in Gloria Gaynor's "I Will Survive."
I'll be Roughie after a couple of gins. You'll be ready to work. You'll be worse than Nick Delaney after a couple of gins, big man.
Absolutely. Yeah, listen there, but for the grace of God, go I. Anyway, fans back next month, Charlie. Maybe not enough. The Scottish Government's confirmed that 500 fans will be allowed into stadiums from May 17th when restrictions drop to level 2, which is great news, Charlie.
Yeah, no, I think it's a road, Peter, that we're on now, and I think it's about, it doesn't matter if it's now or next season, it's about when can we start this process. And a month away, we're going to start that process, getting supporters back into the ground. I was fortunate enough to play at Inverness with 300, and it made a difference to the game. I thought that, so hopefully we can get that back in, and then we can see a few fans at the Euros. I think down in England they're a little bit forward in front of us. Sorry, and I think there's a couple of thousand Man City and Tottenham fans going to get into the game for the Carabao Cup final soon as well. So we're moving in the right direction, and not be long before we're all full houses again, and we're all having a beer together and enjoying life.
Yeah, absolutely. Some fans could be actually in for the Championship, League One and League Two playoffs as well, with the second legs, of course, Roughie, due on May 18th. And on the evidence of last night, your boys are flying, Roughie. You should be involved in this.
Big result.
Yes, well, we're not getting carried away. 7 games.
Oh, your manager is.
By the way, what about a difference a week ago was? A week ago he was like he was.
Yeah, and it's amazing it's amazing the guy who scored the 2 goals last night was the guy who was getting the pelters last week. So it just shows you how football changes. But no, firmly on the ground. As Charlie will tell you, these teams there's not much between all the teams. You've got to fight for the win. You might have to wait a wee bit longer than what you want to, but if you get it at the end, it's worthwhile. But again, it's a shame there's no any supporters on the ground, to see the action. It'd be great if we were in that position that fans were in the crowd, because they've put so much into the club, as all supporters have done in their clubs, and it'd be great to reward them with something before the end of the season.
I don't know about you, Tam. I preferred it when Roughie was bumped off the board. He was more forthright in his opinion. He started to say, yes, we can do it. And now all of a sudden as well, we're taking one game at a time. Don't want to presuppose what's going to happen at the end of it,
If Roughie was an ice cream, it'd be vanilla. Absolutely no opinion whatsoever.
Listen, it's
bring back all we're going to do now. Come on, Roughie.
Exactly. At the bottom, I'm just going to put Magnolia, because that's what it's like now that he's on that board. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Another thing about it as well, though, which is good, is, we want obviously more and more fans in, because the big implication, Roughie, is season tickets. And that's something I think the clubs will want to talk to the government about. Look, the more and more people are vaccinated, second dose up to June and July, then, maybe you can get to a point where the start of next season, those season tickets are valid for everybody to get into the ground.
Yeah, well, I would like to think that all the clubs, as we, our club, are doing, are trying to reward the supporters at the beginning of the season. I think it's time now the clubs have to give back rather than the supporters giving, as they have done in the last year. So we at our club are actively thinking of tons of things that we can give them, things for free at the beginning of the season, and vouchers and all that kind of stuff. So I would like to think all clubs are doing that, because Tam was saying the supporters at Motherwell, they're not taking their season ticket money back. Our club's the same. I'm sure Dundee's the same as well, and lots of clubs that the supporters are just giving all the time. So as I've said, I think the beginning of the season is up to all the clubs to make next season different for any other season, and that could mean whatever. I just think the supporters need to be rewarded.
Yeah, well, there's pressure, Charlie, because I think fans, the breaking point here is asking them to buy virtual season tickets again, which I think would really stretch it.
Yeah, no, I think we have to. I think it's going to be difficult. I think one season the fans could accept it, but if you're going into a second season in this virtual season ticket, I think it'd be very hard. And obviously there is clubs out there that are struggling, and there is clubs in good positions as well from it. So if we can get the fans in, and like Roughie said, I'm sure all clubs will be thinking of ways how they reward the supporters for the backing that the clubs have had through this incredible time. And we'll wait and see what happens. And if that's giving away free shirts or I don't know, pies and drinks or whatever, it's hopefully we can get something sorted. But the most important thing is we're on the road of getting supporters back into stadiums.
Yeah, which is great. I think you're right, Roughie. This will come up with all sorts of innovative things to give away.
Not giving away pies and bovrils. That's taking it too far.
Yeah, what is it? What is it?
What were you thinking about? Getting rid of some players?
Yeah, is it Harry Potter? Is it Harry Potter books or Shakespeare plays? What is it, Roughie? Up that end?
No, I think there's lots of things you could do.
Roughie's going to do on a free after dinner gig.
Well, I could do. You could have dinners, meet the players, that kind of thing. Nights with the players. Mascots.
Oh, that's unusual.
You can go really over. I told you before. We're actually looking into an open air event at the back of the stadium where we're going to put a big canopy out from one end to the other and have maybe bands before the game and entertainment before, just things like that. Something for nothing. That's what we're looking at.
Well done. Can't wait to see the bands. That's absolutely magnificent. Well done, Roughie. See if it's try and make it AC/DC, will you, just to get everybody in there right away.
Yeah, it's the West End. It'll be jazz and classical. Come on, you're in the West End here.
Brilliant. Listen, a positive bit of news, and I think it's a great bit of news for Brian Rice. Signed a new deal with Hamilton Accies. Even if they get relegated, he'll be the manager, and no surprise, Chipper's happy.
For me, it was a simple decision. It didn't take me too long when I got offered the chance of a new deal to accept it, 100%. But if there's any club in Britain that's going to stand by, it's this club. So I've said on numerous occasions, if I was at any other club, I probably wouldn't be the head coach at that club any longer. But this is a unique club with fantastic people, from the top right to the bottom.
What do you make of that, Tam?
Brilliant. No, I'm delighted. Listen, we all love Chipper. I worked under him at Falkirk as assistant manager. I done my coaching badges under him. He was such a help to me doing those as well. He's a tremendous football guy. Full stop. He's had a lot of problems off the pitch. But what I like about Brian Rice is he's so positive. When he puts his teams out to play, they go to win every game. And if every single manager was like that in the world, football would be great to watch, wouldn't it? He goes out to win every game. He's not going to win every game at Hamilton Accies. It's impossible. Listen, they've got the lowest budget in the league. They're just happy to stay in the league, but he goes out to win every game, and they'll take a few downs along the way. But they'll also produce some great performances and they'll produce some great young players for the future. So, no, I'm delighted, and he's right. Hamilton Accies are a club who stands by their managers. And I think that Brian Rice, if they go down or if they stay up, whatever, he'll stand by Chipper if they get relegated, and he'll be confident he'll get them back up again.
Well, Chairman Alan Maitland has given him that full vote of confidence.
I know it seems for some people like strange timing, but this is a strange club and we like to do things differently here. So we're in a situation where I think our staff have been magnificent. I think the players have been magnificent, and the spirit of the club, despite the injuries, despite all the COVID issues, has been fantastic. So we're still in here fighting to avoid relegation if that's possible. But even if we do get relegated, it won't make any difference to our coaching staff and our management staff going forward.
Okay, but listen, there's a good chance, Charlie, that he can pull off the ultimate escape act again.
No, listen, it's not over until it's over, is it? With Hamilton, they've got that experience. The other clubs probably don't have that experience of being down there. I see Chipper, I think he's been to the last 4 or 5 of our games because, he's thinking of the, next season, but also in the playoffs as well. He loves the game. He was at our game again last night, watching teams and players. And, if there's anybody you want to talk about football with and have a beer with, is Brian Rice. He's just a joy to be around. He's humble. He's passionate about the game. He loves about young players, experienced players, and it's a great reward for especially in these tough times. And they are having a tough season, But to have a club and an owner want to back you like that, then that must give him great confidence for the rest of this season and going into next season.
Peter, that might be a masterstroke, by the way. Giving him a new deal. Because I tell you what, it takes the pressure off, for me anyway.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off the management team, takes the pressure off the players. Now the players can just go out and go, listen, it doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't matter, but the management team is going to be here next season. And it could be a clever one for Hamilton to do it now when they're bottom with a few big games coming up. See how it works out.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you'll never believe it. There's a Slavia Prague statement came out just as we are here. So let me read it to you. In a statement on their website, it says, Andre was suspended for 10 UEFA games, and as a club, we respect the decision. In any case, Andre Kudela should not have approached the opposition player. I deeply regret that and apologise to Glenn Kamara for a situation that has clearly caused distress to him and his teammates, as well as everyone associated with Slavia and Rangers. I am taking positive steps to prevent such a situation from happening in our club ever again. We want to learn even more from this situation, and we are open to cooperation with major anti-racism British organisations on workshops and setting up even more robust internal club rules. It is a way for us to organise a broader dialogue that should result in mutual understanding between people in Czechia as well as the UK. This would benefit all players, fans and citizens. Now, that's come from the Slavia Prague website, which is an acceptance of, first of all, the sentence that's been handed down, Roughie. But I have to say, the horses bolted. If only they had taken a kind of a softer stance prior to it, it wouldn't maybe have been this, almost an incendiary device to explore it even further in the days after it, when they clearly started throwing all sorts of accusations the other way, and it just became really messy.
Yeah, I think they know as well now that the 10 games they've got away with one. That there's no doubt about that, and they've obviously decided, right, okay, we'll take that and we'll move on. We'll apologise to everybody, and everybody will think it'll go away, but it won't go away because of the 10 games, because the 10 games just aren't good enough. And UEFA will come in for pelters with that one, and they'll try and ride the storm as well. But it's typical of some football teams, they just think it'll go away. And unfortunately, in this case, this circumstances, it won't be. And we'll still be talking about it.
I'm amazed by that statement. I mean, I know quite a few people on here are saying, and Peter Shaw says it's a ridiculous statement after the way they behaved as a club, and I agree with Peter on that, Tam.
Yeah, definitely. Peter, they've denied it from the start, and then they've started to throw accusations back at Rangers about turning off cameras and all this nonsense. And then they've just basically admitted it. They've said that they've accepted the decision, and they're going to work with the player in racism workshops and all that. So basically, they've been lying from the start. They've been lying through their teeth. And as Roughie says there, they've got away with it. I think the club's got away with it. There was talk of throwing the club out the Europa League and banning the player for a long time. And they've got away with murder there with 10 games.
Tam, there's more to come. Charlie, here's a statement from Andre Kudela, who says, I am surprised that the UEFA Disciplinary Committee has reached a different conclusion than its inspector before. According to him, there was no convincing evidence for the accusation of racism against me, which I continue to reject. In retrospect, I realised that it was a mistake to go to Glenn Kamara at all and say anything to him. There were emotions in the match, and unfortunately, I can't take it back now. I'm so sorry. Well, I don't know about you, Charlie. That is not an apology. That is basically saying that UEFA have moved the goalposts on him.
Exactly. There's no apology, no remorse. And like I said, UEFA weak again. The player, and it sounds like it, the player's got one. He's got away with it. 10 games is not enough. And the punishment of they've admitted being guilty, and they've ended up with 10 games. So I think they'll be happy with that he's not going to miss any major championships or anything like that with his national team either. So it's I think it's a huge blow for the game and for any Blackpool out there. I think that's a massive. This was an opportunity to have a massive statement in the whole of football, and UEFA have let everybody down.
Yeah, absolutely. Here. Listen, managers, we talked about managers that we'd like to go out and have a night out with and be in their company because they're great chat. Another one of them is in a bit of hot water, Jim Goodwin, Roughie. We've had a few nights out with Jim and they've been absolutely magnificent. He's great company.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But seemingly the powers that be are coming down heavy on anybody who says anything out of line, whether it's referees or about the association or whatever. And it is getting a bit touchy now. It's getting really, really, and I feel sorry for the managers who, as we all know, after a game, sometimes you're fizzing, sometimes you're happy with the way it went. And sometimes you say things in the light of day you would regret later on, but you're not getting away with it now. It's if you come out with it after the game, I mean, your emotions are high. If you say anything they're not happy with, you're going to get it. And that's the way it is now. And unfortunately, we all have to go on with it.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up, Ruffy. I think Jim Goodwin knows he's going to get it. He's like Brian Rice and John Hughes. He's got the hearing tomorrow. He regrets the comments. He hopes the SFA accept his apology, but I think he knows ranting against a referee won't go down well.
Yeah, we'll see what the outcome of that is. Emotions ran high after the game at Hamilton, as you can imagine, and said one or two things I probably regret now, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, we're all emotional at times, and that was a very disappointing day for us. So hopefully they'll accept my apology, and whatever comes my way, I'll need to accept that.
Yeah,
he's fine, isn't he?
Oh, I like his strategy, Tam. Do you get the apology?
He's trying desperately. Oh, aye. He's trying to get that finding because his wife will not be happy if his pay packet's a bit lighter. He's got the begging bowl out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether he gets away with that, I'm not too sure, but nevertheless, fair play to him. Players coming and going. That's going to be the topic of conversation over the next month or two on the programme. One player who could be on his way to New York Red Bulls, Roughie, is Patrick Klimala. Celtic paid £3.5 million for him, I think about 15 months ago. He's got 3 years left in his deal, and it looks as if they might be able to offload him. What fee they'll get for him, I don't know, but it just hasn't worked out for the boy. I don't think his style suited Celtic, Roughie.
He actually came on for Celtic against Partick Thistle in a cup game, and he looked as if he had a wee bit of pace. He looked as if he was going to cause problems, but it just hasn't materialised. And you actually wonder, a player who's valued at that kind of money, how, for whatever reason, it doesn't work. I know a lot of people say, they don't settle and it takes them a while to settle over here. If you're worth £3.5 million, you should settle very, very quickly in the environment with the ability that you've got. And for the life of me, I just can't see how it's not worked out for him. I don't care what money they're talking about. I'm going to America. It'll be nowhere near the money that Celtic have paid. So they're going to get bumped in that one for, I would say, a couple of million at least. So, but sometimes you have to get them off the books and move them on. But it'd be interesting to keep tabs with the boy to see how he does in America. It's just incredible that somebody with that kind of ability, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm amazed you said that again, Ruff. You're catching me on the hop in this programme today. I can tell you why it didn't work, because he can't play with his back to goal, can't hold the ball up. He's got a poor touch and can't score goals. That's it in a nutshell. It doesn't matter if you pay £3.5 million or £30 million. Yeah. He can't hold the ball up, and not many teams play a high line against Celtic.
Yeah. But it'd be interesting to see what the person who decided to say he was worth £3.5 million saw, because they must have watched him a few times before they paid that kind of money. So it'd be interesting to see whoever pushed that through told us what his assets were when they seen them.
Yeah. Well, it was probably the same guy that had the 9 or 10 other players, Tam, that came into Celtic who weren't good either.
Nah, listen, I don't think he's good enough, Klimala. No, he's still young. The only thing he's got on his side is time. He's still a young player. He's a Polish international, under 21. I think that you can tell immediately when you see players, particularly for me as a striker. When Celtic are Rangers, when anybody signs strikers and I'm watching a game, I tend to look at the strikers rather than the midfield players or the defenders, and I can tell within 5-10 minutes if he's got something about him. I didn't ever get that with Klamala, Peter. I didn't ever get that. As you said, his touch is poor. He couldn't hold the ball in. He didn't use his body properly. He was rash in front of goal. He snatched at things. He's quick, but no, it wasn't for me. And if Celtic can get the £3.5 million back, they've won the lottery. Can't believe it. If they get the £3.5 million back for him, he's been rubbish. But that's not to say, Peter, because Timo Pukki was I thought was terrible at Celtic, and he's went on to have a right good career. So he could still get time on his side, but I didn't see it, and I don't see it.
It's big pressure when they offer him,
well, Charlie, that was a great. That's a great line from Tam there, saying that he can spot whether somebody can play or not within 5 minutes. I mean, I hope I'm going to do the same, Charlie, when I spot Tam's first touch at the fives. I'm just going to look and I'll make a judgment right away on whether he's still got it or it's all well yesterdays for him. Charlie, the thing about it is, sometimes, and I've heard players say it, you can tell me this from your days at Rangers or Liverpool or Stoke City or Blackpool. A lot of players say to me, sometimes they see a signing and they know when in a short space of time, as Tam's mentioned, this guy's not up to it. This guy's certainly not at the level that we're talking. I remember Peter Crouch said that he felt Peter Crouch said that he felt under right pressure at Anfield because Steven Gerrard was firing the ball into him, checking out his first touch. He wasn't suffering fools gladly, Charlie.
No, and that's the standard when you go to the big clubs. You've got to try to get to their standard and their levels. But yeah, I've seen it. You spot it straight away from day one. As soon as they walk in the door, they have the first session. You'll know if they're good enough or they're not going to be good enough. And listen, it's a shame, but that's the football. You judge as soon as somebody walks in the door and they train, you judge everybody straight away as a player. And I've been there where you come in, you thought he ain't going to be good enough, and most of the time you end up right. But no, Klamala, Yeti, there's a bundle at Celtic at the moment. They have to try and offload, and if they want to go forward. But it's still a worry for me that there's no manager or recruitment team that's been signed up yet.
Yeah,
you think that's a problem, Charlie?
Oh yeah, because hearing now that Eddie Howe's waiting to hear what Crystal Palace, and I'm hearing that Graham Potter, reading in the news that Graham Potter might be going at the end of the season at Brighton, and he might be looking at that job. If I'm Celtic, I want to get this done. It's the 14th of April. The season's finished soon. I would want a new manager signed up and ready to go for next season and trying to get the right players in.
Do you think they're under pressure with this? A number of pundits have said, Charlie, why are they waiting on him? I just think they're at ease. I think they've got a deal done, and there's no pressure. They know exactly what's happening.
So why don't they announce it? If it is Eddie Howe, why don't they announce it? It's obviously, if they're not announcing it, it's somebody that's under contract somewhere else.
Well, there's something that we don't know, Charlie. If it is Eddie Howe, then fine. If he's playing his ticket, then I agree with many a pundit who said if he's trying to work it in a way that he gets a better deal down south, then if I was Dermot Desmond, I would just say, no, beat it. We'll move on to someone else. But I don't get that sense. I may be wrong, but I don't get that sense, Roughie, that there is panic at Celtic.
Well, it seems to have died down a wee bit now. We're not getting any other contenders. We're not getting any suggestions of who it should be. It seems to have went a wee bit quiet, and that says to me that things must be moving on. Sure, there'll be things that have got to be sorted out, like who he's bringing and things like that. But for me, it seems as if they're just sort of going through the motions of trying to tie everything up so everybody's 100% happy with what the deal is. And there's nobody jumping out for left field now.
Yeah. I'll tell you one guy that's happy that a deal's been done, Tam, is Stephen O'Donnell. 2-year deal at Motherwell. I know Stephen, he's a great lad. And I think, settled with his wife and family, wants to stay in Scotland. And for me, Motherwell's a great club.
Yeah, Motherwell's a great club, Peter. And I think that the fact of the matter is he had a 3-year deal at Oxford just before COVID struck, and he knocked it back. And then COVID happened, I think, in the February, March, and he went that full period of 6-7 months without a club, without a contract. And I've been in that situation before myself. It's horrendous. So I think there was an opportunity for him to do the same. He could have let his contract run down at Motherwell and went to the Euros and had a really good Euros, and somebody would have picked him up down in England. But I think he's thought to himself, I don't want to get through that again. I don't want to get through the uncertainty of not having a deal. So I think it suits everyone. As you said, Steven O'Donnell's a brilliant lad, great lad, good football player as well. Great signing for Motherwell, great statement of intent from them to sign a current Scottish international. The Motherwell fans will be delighted. And as you said, it suits him and his family that he's going to have a wage during the summer, that he's not going to get through that kind of out of contract. Because guys like Steven O'Donnell, they've not earned massive money. For them to go 4, 5, 6 months maybe without any wages coming in is tough. So, fair play. It's a great deal for Motherwell.
Yeah, and I think, to be perfectly honest with you, Roughie, Steve Clarke is a loyal person. I think Stephen O'Donnell will be in there as the right back. Whether Liam Palmer comes in on occasion, only time will tell. I think some people obviously just don't get, when they look at some players and try and elevate them too quickly. I mean, there's a real... I noticed a number of people, bleating on about throwing Nathan Patterson in right away. Which I just think is a nonsense. The boy has to develop and get time and get regular football with Rangers and build himself up, because he could be a right back for us for the next 10 years.
I'm one of them. I think he should be in. He's better than what we've got.
Yeah, you think he's better than the rest of them right now?
Absolutely. At 19 years of age, he's better technically. He's got more about him than any of them that's in that right back position at the moment.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we'll agree to disagree, because not on the point that he's a good player, but I think he's young, and I don't think they'll pick him for the Euros ahead of the players that have been there already, which is a slightly different argument, Charlie. But I don't think he should be elevated too quickly.
No, but if he's doing well enough for Rangers, and he's playing at the biggest club in Scotland, and if he's doing it regular again with the players that he's got in the hang, he should be in and around it. I understand that Steve Clarke is a loyal guy and he will give them an opportunity, but if you're looking to the future and there's always a surprise coming into the squad, you end up giving people an opportunity, and I think that his showings for Rangers this season merit an opportunity to play in the squad, because if you look at Liam Palmer, he's fighting relegation in the Championship, and for me it's a no-brainer to get him in there.
Yeah,
I'd have him instead of Palmer, Peter. I'd have him instead of Palmer. I wouldn't have him in before O'Donnell. I think O'Donnell has never let Scotland down. And regardless of what you think about his club career and whatever, he's done well for Scotland. And I think he deserves to start the games. But I'd have Patterson in anyway, just as a backup.
Roughie?
I don't think Patterson's done anything wrong. I think anything that he's played in, we've seen, he's been very, very impressive. But unfortunately, as soon as Tavernier's fit, he's going to be taken out of the team, and Tavernier's going to play. So he's not going to have regular games coming up to the Euros, I wouldn't think, if Tavernier comes back. He's definitely one for the future. Charlie obviously sees him more than us, that he is a great prospect. And time will tell. He will break into the squad, and he could be that position for a long, long time. But I'm like you. I think Steve Clarke won't dismiss any of the guys who have come in, and O'Donnell comes into that category. I think when he came in initially, everybody went, "What? He's playing with Kilmarnock. Blah blah. He's no this, that. He's no that." But any time he's played, he's did okay defensively. Yeah, he could be a wee bit better at international level. But any time he's been given a chance, I don't think he's let anybody down.
Yeah, the other aspect of this is, pending appeal, Nathan Patterson might not be kicking a ball between now and the end of the season. We'll have to wait and see. Listen, the great thing about this show is it's all about opinions, and you can offer yours as well on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. We certainly won't be falling out about it. We certainly won't be covering our mouth and shouting something to Charlie down the microphone, to be perfectly honest with you.
Gordy's a mayor here.
Yeah, exactly. No, we'll keep it for the staff party when we've had a few. Anyway, another boy that I think deserves another chance up at Aberdeen is Bruce Anderson. I think Stephen Glass has looked at him and thought to himself, he's well worthy of coming up here and trying to forge out a career in an Aberdeen jersey. Tam, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree. I like him. I've liked him. He's had a few loan spells. He's went out to I think United and Dunfermline, and he's obviously out at Hamilton now. He's out learning the trade. He's out playing regular football. He's scoring goals. So I think he's kind of worked his way into having an opportunity at Aberdeen. And I think you look at the strikers at Aberdeen; they've not exactly been setting the head on fire. And a lot of Aberdeen fans will be devastated that he's actually at Hamilton. They'd like to have seen him in the Aberdeen team, and maybe they'd have been closer to Hibs. So I think Glassy will give him a chance. He's going to go up, but he's going to be working with Alan Russell, who's a top striker coach. So the boy can only get better. So I think he deserves a wee opportunity at Aberdeen at the start of next season.
Yeah, I actually think
Peter,
the one young player.
Peter,
Go on.
Who was the striker when we were doing commentaries a way back? We went up to Aberdeen and a young boy was getting a chance to play up front, and he just got pelters every time he played. Centre forward.
Shearer.
No, it was a young boy, and I can't for the life of me remember. No,
it's gone.
I thought Pierre might have remembered, because we sat there and whoever was the assistant at Aberdeen used to give him pelters, and every time he got a game, he would start and then he would get hauled off. Was it not the
Irish boy? He was such a great lad.
I think it was the Irish boy. You're right.
We had him on the show.
He's down south now.
Charlie, you'll know him. He was such a good lad. Josh McGuinness.
That's it.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, in his early days, Charlie, honestly, Craig Brown would stand there and Archie Knox would be behind Craig Brown giving him absolute pelters. But he was, it was an education in itself. I used to sit behind there in the Sky Sports box and look at him and think, I don't know how Josh McGuinness survives this. Archie absolutely blasted him.
Listen, some managers, you just don't take to a player and you don't think he's going to do the right job for you in your team. Obviously, Bruce Anderson never done it for Derek and Tony Dock. And he'll be getting an opportunity in pre-season to show that, that people at Aberdeen like him. So, fair play. If you go out on loan and you do well, a new manager coming in, listen, all of a sudden, Bruce Anderson might be playing 20, 30 games for Aberdeen next year. It's just how football is. One manager might not like you, and somebody comes in the door, and all of a sudden you flourish under him. So, he's done well enough at Hamilton to get that opportunity at Aberdeen, and I think Aberdeen will just be looking at every option possible. They got every player under contract, putting a squad together, and obviously bringing in new recruits for next season. So, keep saying it, and Tam will say it again. I'm looking forward to seeing what Aberdeen can produce next year, and hopefully closing the gap with Hibs.
Yeah, and of their younger talented players, I think Rangers actually nicked the best of them. Scott Wright, I think Scott Wright will come on to be a really good player for Rangers. I thought they actually won a watch getting him out of Aberdeen. Another little bit of news here, Charlie. UEFA to agree on Friday that away goals won't count after 90 minutes if it's all level, which is a good thing. I'd like to see it scrapped completely, but I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I think you should just scrap it as well. I think you'd better, just play the two games, and if it's a draw, get it into extra time and then penalties. This away goal, I don't think's fair. But I don't think I'll have to worry about that in my career for now till then about UEFA, so it'll not affect me.
Yeah, no, don't worry about that, Charlie. You'll be at games and you'll be able to call it once the PLZ Champions League show kicks in, Roughie. Charlie will be there calling the away goals. It's as simple as that. With Tam, just in case Tam thinks he's being
Charlie's getting rested for the playoffs at the minute for Dundee, so he'll be ready to go in the playoffs.
Well done, Tam. If you ever want to make something feel uneasy, you know how to do it.
Cheers, Tam.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, on that point, Champions League football last night, again, Roughie, Paris Saint-Germain against Bayern Munich. Your boys just made it, as I thought they would by the skin of their teeth. But I'll tell you, Roughie, it just shows you the fine margins, because I firmly believe if Lewandowski was fit 100%, they would have knocked Paris Saint-Germain out.
Yeah, well, that last night could have been another 4-3 or 3-2 or whatever. The chances at either end with the quality that was on show, was fantastic. I just can't believe it ended up 1-0. There should have been more goals in that game, but Paris Saint-Germain will take it. And they'll move on. They won't be. They'll be disappointed they never scored any goals, but they certainly created enough chances as Bayern did. But no, I thought it was another good game. And who did Paris get in the next round? Then is it Man City?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but another cracker.
So,
Brilliant.
yeah. Well, it's Man City or Dortmund, because I don't know what way you're going tonight, Charlie.
Man,
What are you
Dortmund,
going? What? I'm going to watch Liverpool, Real Madrid. But I think Man City are under pressure, Charlie.
Man City under pressure. I think Dortmund are a good side, but you know, I'm going to watch the Dortmund game. I think it's going to be a cracker. Two great teams.
Yeah.
You know, Dortmund have been poor in Germany, but in the Champions League, Haaland has been unbelievable. Man City, I think, are favourites for the tournament. You know, it's going to be a great game. But if Liverpool can score early, it opens it right up, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I see the headline now. Former Liverpool player snubs second leg against Real Madrid to watch Dortmund against Man City. That'll go down a storm. Liverpool against Real Madrid. Can they pull off another memorable night at Anfield against Real Madrid this time? They did it against Barcelona. Andy Robertson says it's going to have to be one of those perfect nights.
You know, it needs to be a close to perfect game. We've done it in the past, but you know, we can't rely on that. We need to try and create our own atmosphere tomorrow night. Of course, we've not got our fans in there with us, and it's up to us to create our own atmosphere and create, you know, a Champions League night at Anfield without the fans.
Oof, and that's the only thing about it, Tam. You would bet on them with the huge support there that it could be one goal and then the whole place is lifted, but flat Real Madrid. I don't know about you, but sometimes I think players are more at ease of playing that safe type of football.
Yeah, I think without the fans, Peter, I wouldn't fancy Liverpool tonight at all. If I feel, you know, the cop rolling them on, you know, and they get an early goal, then you could say, you know, Real Madrid could get spooked a little bit, but Real Madrid are just going to play that as a normal game, a training game. And I think Real Madrid, if they score, I think it'll be curtains. So I fancy Madrid to get through.
Yeah, I mean, my heart really wants Liverpool to do it, Roughie, but I think it could be Real Madrid and Man City going through tonight. What's your two?
Yeah, I'm going to go Man City, and Real Madrid to get through tonight. Just remind me where the final is. Is the final out of reach for us?
Istanbul.
Yes, Istanbul.
That's out of reach.
Is that? Well, hey, calm your jets. Nobody's getting on a plane anytime soon, Tam. You're not suggesting we get on a London double-decker bus and head over there, do you? I can't see it happening. Charlie, what's your two teams for tonight?
I'm going to go for City, and I'm going to go for Liverpool. I think they can do it.
Yeah? Well, that would be fantastic. That would be great.
Can't believe he said that. Can't believe he said that.
Neither can I. It's an absolute disaster. And as for Scotland...
Chelsea Liverpool semi-final.
Oh yeah, with the infamous Garcia brought back for the goal that never was, says Josie. Yeah. It was magnificent. I loved seeing his face after it, especially since his Porto side dived relentlessly, Tam. I never forget that Porto side. Vitor Baia rolling down as if he'd been shot from the stands. Hey, Derley, you name it. Echo. Oh yeah, it was 11 Tam McManuses in the side that night, Tam. I'll never forget it. Nice. Anyway, yeah, exactly. It's quite perhaps fitting that you've got Diego's top on just to get a wee hand over the top of your head, son. Anyway, listen, enjoy your football. For all the people that have posted some very positive stuff in support of Glenn Kamara, I think it's only right and proper that we comment on these things and offer our support to him. It was a difficult time. UEFA have handed out a 10-match ban to Andre Kudela. Not enough, I think, is the general consensus here and certainly across YouTube and Facebook. Not enough of a penalty from UEFA handed out to Kudela. He is unrepentant, certainly hasn't offered any kind of apology other than that he shouldn't have gone over to Kamara. But I think his club have taken a slightly different stance. This one will rage on. I think a lot of people are going to be angry at the way this has all panned out. Enjoy your football tonight in the Champions League and otherwise. And I would say, just to finish off, Tam, congratulations to Kenny Shields because he guided Northern Ireland's women's team to the Euros with a fantastic 2-0 win over Ukraine. The highlights were magnificent on it. Great for Kenny.
No, it was brilliant, great result, and it's great to see Kenny's his humble self saying it was the greatest result ever for a UK-based team. So he's still very humble, Kenny. So fair play to him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a great lad. Anyway, apart from anything else, don't you skip away as quickly as you normally do, McManus. From Roughie, from Charlie, Tam, and myself, Peter Martin. Yeah, I know you've eaten dinner, Delvin, but hang fire. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.